Hello guys, and now we are on the ninth game in the series of thematic Sicilian opening. I mean the thematic tactics in the Sicilian opening. And now in this game we are going to see the thematic move of rook takes c3. And before that I want to talk about this thematic move. In countless games in the Sicilian, black sacrifices a rook for a knight on c3. The offer is often justified, but it is useful to understand the precise reasons why. And this will also tell us when the sacrifice is not such a great idea. First of all, if black can also take the e4 pawn, the sacrifice is rarely a bad idea. But even if he doesn't get a pawn for the exchange, the following benefits may accrue to him. So let's see what are the benefits of taking on c3, the c3 knight with the rook. The static benefits are like he can use the c file uh, because the pawns are doubled there, and the so here the c file can be used easily, and the weakened pawn structure uh, and the e pawn and a pawn, and sometimes the e pawn also becomes weak, and there is also some influence in the center because of this exchange sacrifice. And let's see the dynamic benefits. uh, Here, if white having being castle long, uh, there will be weak squares near the white king, and there will be lot of attacking possibilities. So let's see the game. e4 c5, knight f3 d6, d4 cd4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3 a6, bishop e3 a5. Yeah, I'm sorry, e5, and knight b3, bishop to e6. Now f3, h5, bishop e2, knight bd7, f4, rooks to c8. Here also possible is e takes f4 by black, and after bishop takes f4 there will be knight to e5. So now f5, bishop c4, bishop takes c4, rook takes c4. Now queen d3, queen to c7, long castles, b5. Now king b1, bishop e7. Here then as you can see, the analysis shows rook takes c3 is the best move here. Bishop e7 is also good. Now after h3, castles, g4. In this position, white is threatening to simply move his opponent over with g4 g5, and then either f6 or g6. Black has to do something, but what? Now the thematic move rook takes c3. The engine was showing to make this move earlier, but still it is good. This is a thematic exchange sacrifice that is quite common in the Sicilian. In return for the exchange, black obtains pressure against the white queenside structure and the e4 pawn. Now b takes c3, queen to c6, and this was the intention to stop the g5 push, which could have been a source of some embarrassment to black otherwise. Now bishop to g5. This is the only move to avoid giving up the e4 pawn without a fight. Now rook c8. Now rook h e1. White focuses on stabilizing his position in the center. One other possibility is g takes h5, uh, remaining focused on the kingside attack and trying to open more lines to that end. However, after knight to b6 and followed by knight a4, black's counterplay develops. After rook h e1, now knight to b6, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight c1. Objectively not the best move here, but in view of the rating, so white there was a rating disparity between the players, so white wanted to keep the game going. Here white could have taken on d6, but then a draw would have been likely after queen takes d6, and I'm sorry, here after queen takes c3, queen takes b6, and queen takes c2, king a1, queen c3 check, king b1, queen c2. This would have been a draw. Here queen d3, now knight to a4 comes, and when to stop mate, white would have to give back the exchange. So but white didn't take on d6, he went for rooks, knight c1, now rook to d8. This move is insufficiently resolute and the timing is poor. Here d5 would have been best. uh, the rook is much better placed on the c file. Here here even knight to c4, uh, knight to c4 would have been good, with the idea to play h5 to h4 as quickly as possible. The idea is to keep the position closed so that the white rooks can't do their thing. After that, black has lots of time to mobilize his pieces for an assault against the white king, and there is little white can do in the meantime. Here d5 is also a very good move. uh, Black would have gained an almost decisive advantage by playing the central thrust of d5. Here after d5, ed5, ed5, there is queen to d6, causes immense problems for white. Here black is ready for knight a4 or knight c4, and then queen would come to a3, and also following with e4 and rook to c4. So I'll just show you some one sample line. Here after rook e4, now rook to c4, now knight to e2, queen to a3, and king a1, uh, and rook to a4. Now rook takes a4, knight takes a4. Now rook to b1, now e4, and now black breaks through. If at all black plays knight to e2 after they push d5, now black can continue with h4 here. Black should take one tempo out to keep all the lines closed on the king side. Then he can proceed with the plan of attacking the white king. But black played the rook d8. Now rook g1. White seizes his chance for the counterplay. Now knight to a4. Now knight to e2. Queen c5. Now king a1. Now d5. But this move is too late here. Now g5. Here if at all e takes d5, this would lose immediately to e4. After queen g3, after queen g3 or queen d2, that would be knight takes c3. So here white plays g5. Now queen to a3, rook b1, d takes e4, queen g3, h4, queen e1. Here bishop e7 is good, and after f6, bishop to c5, rook g f1 and h4, queen e1 and bishop to e3, rook b3, queen d6 is coming. After h4, there is queen e1. Now the white queen covers c3 here, and it's no longer possible to continue the queen side attack for black. Then now bishop to e7, now f6. Now it's turn for white to attack, and he does not hesitate to make full use of that. Now after bishop f8, now g6, but here but here black players know exactly what to do. After f take g6, rook takes g6, f take e3, f take g7, bishop to e7, rook h6. It was better to put rook c6 to control c3. Now after rook to d2, queen g1. So then queen b2 check, rook takes b2, rook d1. Here white's attack was decisive, so black lost the game here. Actually black had a winning game. He lost the game one of the mistakes, he let white to attack on the king side, and he should not have let after rook g1 h4, because the hg5 coming. So the mistake, the major mistake which black did was the rook d8 move on 22. The best move here was d5. So this was the plan for black, but then even if at all knight to e2, g1 d takes e4, king d6, bishop g5, takes c5. So this is coming. Here black should not exchange pieces. After exchange his queens, after knight e2 h4, knight to e2, here after e takes d5 there is queen d6. Oh, so white must not exchange his queens. I mean black must not exchange his queens to continue attack, uh, because all the squares in the of the white king are weak, so it is easy to attack it. So guys, thank you all. I hope you would have enjoyed the game, and it would have been very illustrative to see these thematic moves. I have been posting in nearly 10 games on this thematic Sicilian thematic moves. So thank you all.